Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check. It is QI, unapologetically entering the building. And I have, some very interesting updates when it comes down to the Carmela Anthony case. This was definitely a setup. There were so many working parts. I noticed them. I noticed them actually from the door. I actually noticed a lot of things pre trial, like debating with people on conservative platforms and them asking questions like, can black people be racist, right? And believe it or not, a lot of this stuff was centered around the Carmelo Anthony case. What I what I mean by that, or what, let me just expound a little bit. Notice one thing, that when you look at the actual detailed facts of, the case, and from what we initially heard, like it was two teenagers, and you know, other than us seeing their pictures, it wasn't a racial thing. Like, for instance, I didn't just automatically think that this was a racist situation. I didn't know anything about Collin County at the time or Frisco, but immediately after they televised what had happened at that school, and notice it made nationwide attention immediately as well. And most of the news syndicates or the news channels were like Fox News, which is a conservative channel. Um, Fox News is diehard Republican, diehard conservative. All right, so I also noticed that anytime, because I always like to go to the news in terms of getting updates first. And I noticed that going to the news, it's like they had already convicted Carmelo Anthony. It's like they convicted him from the door. And although he said self-defense, it's like they had already made him guilty. So much until I could no longer watch the news, especially Fox News. I never really been able to watch them because they are really anti-Democrat, anti-black, and conservative. Okay, so, you know, in discussions, before the trial and everything, a lot of people were like, do you think this is a racial case? And basically my answer was unbiased because, whenever I cover any of these trials or whenever I look at any of these situations, I do try to look at it from an unbiased standpoint. A lot of times I try to put myself in those situations and look at and try to see what would I do? How would I feel? In other words, I try to be empathetic or sympathetic. So when it came down to this trial, this situation, you could go back and look at one of my earlier lives. I was like, we have two children, two 17-year-old teenagers, who basically lost their lives. And I meant that. And I was like, it's sad either way it goes. And this case has nothing to do with race. Please, let's not inflict race. But here's the thing. Now, we have two different activists that are working with the family. We have Dominic Alexander, and he's with the next generation. He's the guy that was at the conference, the one at the conference. He's the one that walked Karmelo out of the jail. And he has a sketchy legal history. He has a criminal background. All right. And for some not so good things. So I automatically knew that he wasn't the better spokesperson. He's still not the better spokesperson. So, okay, so the family hired him. Okay, we got to deal with it, right? So I noticed on a interview with Fox News, the conservative news. Now, whenever you're debating conservatives, they like to gaslight. They're going to play word salad games and semantics. So you got to know how to finagle with them. If you do not, then they're going to get you caught up. And then before you can answer one question, they're going to throw another on top of you, and they're going to take you so fast until you don't even realize that they painted a whole narrative on you. So the narrative that they wanted to paint on Dominic Alexander was that, he asked them, he's like, why do you make everything about race or racism? And he was like, and he said, no, I'm not talking about the entire Black culture. I'm talking about you. And so I assumed if Dominic had have been able to finagle a lot more or any more, then of course they were going to bring up his criminal background. So, I mean, to the family, I wish that they would pick, a better group of activists. Now, I don't know how deep they're in. That's the thing. Once they commit or whatever, and since, I don't know how deep they're in. Like, I don't know what connections that they acquired through Dominic, or, how much, help or assistance that, they're dependent on from Dominic or whatever. But I can at least say this at this time. I'm not saying it necessarily at this time to fire him, but you might be in a little too deep. But absolutely don't make him the spokesperson, because he's not a debater. And he's not up to he can't handle it. So in terms of the family spokesperson or spokespeople, really the family themselves did well on the interviews that I saw. They did very well, especially the mother. So, like, I think it would be preferable. Plus, it humanizes Karmelo. That's one thing that the defense failed to do. They did not humanize Karmelo. We were left with that image that the media left. We were left with that image that every time the prosecutors question, cross-examine or examine, we were left with that monster image that they tried to paint. And you can look at him, plus knowing his history, you can clearly see that Karmelo Anthony is not a monster. You could clearly see that. It's as clear as night and day. And so yeah, let me go ahead and just say, so like, people are not saying that he didn't get he did not get a fair trial. The trial didn't start out fair from the beginning. It was like an in-your-face railroad. It was like an in-your-face setup. Plus, there was a lot of coercions, and you could tell. There were people who were reporting on the inside, who were close to, who were also friends with the family. They were also, social media, people, and they were also on the outside creating incidences with people like the Proud Boys and with people like Jake Lang. So most of the corruption and most of that stuff was initiated by the conservatives, because all of these people are conservatives. And one of the things I noticed that they do is they love a black face here or there, because that sort of makes things racial neutral. But keep in mind, if you're black and you're conservative, they don't care about you either. They don't. They're just using you as a tool for the time being. But um because they know you're a self-hating person 9 times out of 10. They know you think you're better than other people because you might have acquired a little more or whatever. Not all black people who acquire things and who do better feel like they're better than everybody or other black people, but there are some that they want to be just like they want to be elitist. They want to be black supremacist, to black people. Um, Now let me get back on Dominic Alexander. All right. So Nick and I did an interview yesterday, and I didn't hit the link. This is the first time I didn't really hit the link, even though I had a lot of questions. But because, like I said, sometimes people are a benefit, and he was a benefit. He is a benefit. He was a benefit. And I didn't want to ruin that, or I didn't want to ruin that reputation with my questioning, right? So I decided to hold off because I wanted to question him about things, like I said, his criminal background record and the fact that, they did blame him. They blamed him, for recommending that the Anthony family got in a white attorney, which was a bad decision because we all know the case was in Collin County, which is known for racism, known for railroading black people. They don't get like known. There are cases after cases after cases. A lot of attorneys have came out and spoken about it, and a lot of the legal team have came out and spoken about it. It's well known that Collin County is a very unfair place for black people, especially when it comes down to the judicial system plus. And so you got to look at it like a lot of those people who stood trial and things like that, they were scared. It's a lot of people, they're scared. They couldn't go up against, they couldn't go, because at the end of the day, uh, they wanted, they, they want, they not only want Carmela Anthony's life, that's why we got to protect them. We got to document things. But they also want the life of the family. Because I've never seen where you like within a matter of, because like most trials, especially high profile cases like this, uh it takes a long time. uh Trials take a long time, and the judge was rushing. The judge was rushing. The judge was like indirectly threatening, like you're gonna have to pack a bag, and you're not gonna have a TV, and I'm gonna sequester you. And so, they threatened a lot of people and put a lot of people under pressure. You know what I'm saying? They put people under pressure to get the case done in a certain amount of time. And based on the way that the witnesses testified, you could just tell that a lot of them were lying. The stories were different from what they originally told the police. You could just tell there was a lot of coercion, and you could just tell that a lot of perjury. But that's another reputation that Collin County also has. Um, as so back to Dominique, although like one of the biggest things to do was not add fuel to the fire when it comes down to the racism situation. Like, you know, black people out of anybody should have never did that. Never like, just made it a racial situation. Black people should have made it a situation of two teenagers, a situation of bullying or something like that. We should have stuck with the facts because it added fuel to the fire when it became a race, and it became a war, and it became a conservative versus democratic war. It became a black versus white war. It became a war. And if you didn't see all of those playing parts, all of that playing a part in this trial, then you're blind, and you really do need to get, more educated and more aware of different things. So, like when it comes down to voter tampering and different things, I'm sure. So we got to really be more we got to be more vigilant when it comes down to, voting rights, because even within terms of, the all non-black the non-black jury, like the way that you get selected for jury duty is by being registered to vote. The way that we put these different people in place, like the judge, is by voting. So your votes does matter, and your votes are your only way. And for people, oh, they're selected, there is no, no, not, especially if we make sure that there's no voting tampering, because they're already, trying to change the maps. They're trying to do whatever they can, to assure that the conservatives get in office because of Project 2025, which is Jim Crow 2.0. And a lot of us in this that are still here living today have not lived through that. I think it ended in like 70. So, like people, they either face the tail end of it. But it's that's like where you can't use certain restrooms, and different things of that nature. That's like where it was really rough, like where like you really had no rights, and like the Black Wall Street and the Rosewoods and different things of that nature. If you progress, they were going to tear you down. And you can sort of see it happening now, because even with it's not called the GoFundMe, but we're just going to say GoFundMe for the family. They had that shut down. They're doing everything they can to stop this family from getting support. They're doing everything they can to silence people. They were trying to silence, they only let Fox News and different selected media in, and they stories were cursed, you could tell as well. And out of the YouTubers, the vloggers, uh, it was 27. It was like the Hunger Games. You had 27, first come, first serve, and there were so many threats and things like placed on those vloggers. Those vloggers had to go through a lot. That's why I'm gonna just say shout out to Nick and Knight, and shout out to Queen Sheba. They were really great note takers, and even when they came back, they just gave us word for word, verbatim, what their notes said, what the people in the actual trial said. So they didn't add nothing. They didn't add nothing, take nothing away. They just presented it like it was. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have any idea of a lot of those things that went on in that courthouse, and how, like, even how the video was blurry. But people are stepping forward now to say that they went to the school and saw the video, and they're saying that what they presented in the court, what they were saying in the court, was totally different from the video, and that the video was more clear. And they didn't even allow the media to see the video, only the jury. So you just have to ask yourself certain questions when it comes down to like certain things like that. What are you hiding? Why are you hiding so much? What are you hiding? Why are you hiding so much? But back to Dominic, it's like Dominic is really pushing this racial thing. At this point, it's nothing but that. But at this point too, you still have to watch how you present stuff, because it could harm the family, and it could harm his chances of getting justice for this appeal. So they need to give him some debate lessons, and the legal team need to get with him and tell him exactly what to answer and what not to answer, so that he doesn't paint a bad, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to paint a bad picture. They're using media to play with our heads, pretty much psychologically play with our heads. They're using black conservatives coming out here, agreeing, because it's unbelievable that so many people, oh, he should be unalived. Oh, there was people outside the court threatening, Jake Lane threatened to unalive Karmelo. Oh, they're going to give him 10 years and we're going to unalive him, because even Jake Lane knew that he shouldn't get that much time. Even Jake Lane knew he shouldn't get 35 years. And, basically Jake Lane was sitting there, they were trying to set up some bad stuff to happen to him. So, we really need to, be very vigilant with this, especially in terms of his safety, within prison because they've already transported him to prison. Never seen anything work this fast. It's like they're trying to hurry up and make him suffer. You know, so if anything happens to him, they did it. I don't care. If anything happens to him, they did it. And we do not need to let up off of him because it's going to be all of us if we don't. It's going to be all of us. See, this ain't we look everybody, people probably like, oh, this is don't have nothing to do with me. Not today. But this is like a test run for what they can get away with. So tomorrow it's gonna be all of us. So we gotta stand and make sure that that we're getting the same rights, that justice is properly served, and that we're getting treated equally and not based on the color of our skin because you don't like the color of our skin. All right, now let me get down to the gist of it. My title says, did Charleston White, okay, set up the Anthony family? Because Charleston White initially came out here and he was like a black conservative. Oh, he who told him to bring the knife to school? He should. And then they're saying that it's not even a knife; it should be called a utility tool or a multi-tool, because it was ones that had the several things. Like if you needed to clip your toenails, if you needed to do this, a fingernail file, a different thing. So hey, that's probably why he had it, but it was still not. It was legal. All right. But at any rate, he came out, he was against Karmelo. Then all of a sudden, out some kind of way he met with the father. And so he said after talking to the father, he realized that, he didn't do it and he was innocent and all that kind of stuff. He started working with the father. He started giving Karmelo boxing, paying for boxing lessons for him, right? Which seems really funny when the family came on and did the interview and said that Charleston White told him because according to Dominique, they interviewed nine. Let me see. They interviewed about 9 attorneys, and some of the attorneys were out of Dallas. Now, Mike Howard, the attorney that they selected, and Toby Shoots, were good attorneys. They said Mike Howard is the top in his area, but see, he's probably the top in his area because, he's affiliated with Colin County. Okay, so let's get it. So those numbers are a little cushioned there, But at the same time, people were wondering why he didn't pick a black attorney and then a black attorney from Dallas, because Dallas is right there up the road, right? This is a suburb, right outside of Dallas. And now that a lot of those Dallas attorneys are stepping forward, yes, why didn't you pick it? And so basically the family is saying that Charleston, well, they didn't say his name. They said an activist, right, told them to pick a white attorney. They wish he hadn't listened. He should have picked, a black attorney. Or pick, at least not one that's from, Colin County specifically, or two, in bed with the people in Colin County. If you know what I'm talking about. And you should have looked at their, their political affiliations as well. But, so the question is, did Charleston White set up this family? Because it's like he was with the Metcalfs at first. He even had one of the, like this celebrity to donate lots of money to the Metcalfs. So he made sure the Metcalfs got their money. Now, when it comes down to buying the houses and the cars, that's the Metcalf family. The Karmelo Anthony family has not been able to touch their money. And the conservatives went in. And we know the names of, but the conservatives went in and canceled out their, it's GoLink or something. It's something other than outside another alternate to GoFundMe. They canceled it. So, they're not getting, they like, whereas the Metcalfs got plenty of money, had plenty of money in there. The Anthony family has not been able to touch one dime. How unfair. All right. As well, uh, like I said, Charleston made sure that they donated to the Metcalfs. Then all of a sudden he's over here and he's giving, and it's just like how ironic you give your. It seems as though, or you may be giving bad information to this family. As well, I noticed that he came out and he started going against and saying bad things about the Metcalf family. How were you one time on the Metcalf side, but then you all of a sudden now you coming out talking about these boys was bullies, they was registered in martial law, martial arts, and all kinds of other stuff. All kinds of other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like, just like there were a lot of coercions and setups. And so like my question is, did they send Charleston White in? Because it's like he's just crashing out over the internet. He did an interview with Antoine Daniels from the Manosphere. And it wasn't intentionally an interview. It's like he called in and, he just started telling, some stuff. Like that they wanted to unalive, they plan to unalive Karmelo and a lot of different things. And like he crying and stuff, talking about he about to donate $75,000 because he made a mistake. He's sorry he made a mistake. He sold out the black people and everything. But we know, like, he's been doing it, and we've never seen him cry. And we know he's a diehard black conservative, and he's often like he doesn't have any pity or compassion for black boys or black children or black people or even black women. He's horrible when it comes down to speaking about black women as well. So he's a typical black Republican with all the bigotry and all of the discrimination and all of the, all kinds of isms, racism, sexism, misogyny, everything, right? All right. So basically, he's trying to donate $750,000. And he also told them to get all white representatives. Like he told them it was all right. He told the family that it was all right that they had all non-black jury. He told them that. And so now I'm looking back, like, because a lot of people were wondering why it wasn't a bigger push when it came down to the Batson and when it came down to having a jury of his peers and stuff. Was the defense just giving up? And it may have been due to Charleston White's improper leadership and misleading, because Charleston White also said he was in the court every day. So a lot of this stuff, he was working. I sort of have a feeling he was working with that family, just like the rest of the black conservatives. Because notice, like most of the black conservatives in the media, they're repeating the same talking points as the racist white people. The same talking points, no compassion, because Karmelo was not a thug. He was it was raining. He sat there, and like they bullied him. According to that video, they was ganging up to bully him, and we know that by his friend Eddie's testimony, because Eddie could have very easily stopped it. You know what I'm saying? And then why wasn't no adult, called? Why did they feel like they need to take it into their own hands to move him or whatever? They were bullying him. And it is said that they are bullies. And so, they're saying that more took place than what we know, according to those videos. Like there was some pushing and he did try to originally get away. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. So we definitely need a retrial. And this time I hope they make it open to the public so we can all see. Because that's the other thing. So many rumors, so many things are allowed to spread because, of how they handled this whole trial or case. It has not been transparent. So what else do you expect from black people? What else do you expect? What else do you expect? And then the way that this has been handled from the beginning through the media, because there's no way this mainstream media should have been able to say the ugly things that they have said using gestures like monkey and all kinds of stuff when it comes down to this case. It's like some people that I used to watch on YouTube that I had to unsubscribe from because I didn't know that they were like racist like that. Like some bigger channels or whatever. You're just like, what? Like, I can't watch you no more. I can't. But like I said, let's like pay real close attention to Charleston White because I really do think that, like he was sent. He was sent to set the family up to make bad decisions because, like we were wondering why the father didn't give a lot more push. We were wondering why the defense didn't give a lot more push. And then Charleston White was on here acting like, well, we gonna do this and we gonna do that and we gonna do this. We got him exactly what we want. And then the way he's acting now, I'm not convinced because he's an actor. He normally shows out like that. He probably knows he did wrong, and then he's trying to clean it up. And then not cleaning it up, he's trying to come in for the next case. And I hope that the family has, learned their lesson with dealing with him. And I hope that, like I said, this is a very politically driven case. More than racism, this is politically driven. It's politically driven. And everybody the majority of people in that county are definitely conservative. That's a conservative county. That's a red county. Most of those people are red. Most of those people go, to the same little clubs and stuff. They part of the same, most of those people know each other because that's not a real big place. But at any rate, from here going forward, that's one of the things we got to do. We got to pay attention when you're utilizing any kind of service because it's a lot of scam and it's just a lot of things going on right now. Because, Project 2025, they're trying to bring in which is Jim Crow 2.0, and basically going to put us back into, I'm not going to say chattel slavery, but I'm definitely going to say, we're going to lose a lot of our rights if we don't. And when I say stand up, I don't mean fighting because, like there's only one way to lose your rights and lose your freedoms right now to become a slave again, according to the Constitution, and that's through criminal act. They call it sweat equity, which also means free labor. Sweat equity, which also means free labor. But anyways, I just wanted to come on. I was going to, I was going to do a little bit more research and stuff. But I was like, I just want to go ahead and put this out here. I just want to go ahead and say this because I want us to pay attention to Charleston White. And, y'all, like, we really got to do our best at, like, especially if you're Black, please don't talk. Because, this could be your family next. All of our families next. And you're going to want us to stand for you too, because they're going to do the same thing. They're going to run psychological false narratives and all kinds of things to get people to, because I've never seen so many conspiracies in my, like they came back and they was trying to say George Floyd this. They tried to turn the George Floyd situation around. And then one time I was debating with them and I was like, okay, well, I can't really, I'm not going to stand on the George Floyd. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stand on the Breonna Taylor situation. They tried to say stuff about that. So they're adding all of these narratives to try to make Black people seem violent and like Black people are criminals and like we can't think and we can't take care of ourselves, like we're no longer needed and we need to be supervised and back in slavery. And the thing is, they're not hiding it. They're telling us to our face. Because as I'm debating them, that's not true, and I'm like going hard or whatever. And they try to make you seem gaslight, try to make you seem stupid or dumb for even just believing in yourself, for following your own convictions, for thinking for yourself. Because I heard a Black person say, "Oh, he just seemed like he was a little entitled." I'm like, we all should feel like we're entitled. Equality. We all should feel like we're entitled to rights, fair treatment, entitled to a piece of the American pie. We all should feel entitled. Why do we have to be inferior? And see, that's most of them Black conservatives. They feel like they should be inferior so that they can get an extra cookie. So that they get an extra cookie, they feel like they should be inferior. to other conservatives. And a lot of the conservatives are not, all of them are not rich either. They're doing the same thing. They feel like they have to be inferior to the leaders or to the richer people so that they could get an extra cookie. So everybody's fighting for an extra cookie, and it's like the Hunger Games. Unless you really are smart, can think for yourself, and then you know how to survive. And more than anything, we got to stand. And like I said, stand on deal with physical fighting, stand in dealing with learning the law, voting, exercising our rights, and assuring that we have rights. And then stop going against each other unless we're totally wrong. Because the times we should go against each other, like when the black on black situations, every time somebody bring up the black on black, that's because of proximity. That's because of proximity. No, we want to know from them why they don't take that just as seriously. But then you want to sit around and say like we have our crime rates and things are bad. It's bad because like they don't get, like it's easier for them to get away with doing stuff to like black people than others. So y'all like wake up. We gotta pull from Martin Luther King. All of that stuff, protesting, boycott, all of that stuff. We got to bring it back. After a lot of people, it don't work. Yes, it did, because we got rights. We got the Civil Rights Act. And like keep on playing. You're gonna see how bad it was before Dr. Martin Luther King. See, that's what's happened. A lot of y'all don't know what it was like before Martin Luther King. Y'all didn't listen to y'all grandparents, so y'all thinking everything hunky dory. Then a lot of y'all thinking that they gonna think you the token black, or you the good black. No, they're not. You gonna be just like everybody else. They gonna use you till they can't use you no more. Like Uncle Tom, like who else? Uncle Tom, like that movie Django, that Samuel Jackson. And that's what you're gonna be. But I just want to report that real quick, y'all, and I'm gonna try to stay updated. I'm gonna pay attention. I'm gonna go in and do a little bit more research on it. And y'all, like, let's protect the family. Let's protect Carmela. Let's stay active. Um, report. Be vigilant, and understand that this is like is bigger. It has become a racial case, but it's bigger than race. It's about the election, and it's about politics as well. So until next time, this is Unapologetically QI, and I'm now going to exit the building. Make sure y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe, and I appreciate you all. I do have some comments. I'm sorry. Y'all be telling me to read the comments. What's up, Clyde? Clyde in the house. That's my girl. And Parlor Game. What's up? Right. Nope. It was self-defense. Sorry. Nope, we ain't doing that. Must be a black conservative. I'm trying to stroll down. Okay. I see what. Oh, okay. So I'm not gonna read the comments. I don't read negative. Like, I'm not reading things like that because I don't want, for replay value purposes or whatever. I'm not doing that. I know why people do it. No, because that's the manipulation, the mind games. You put things in the atmosphere because you want people to think a certain way. We're not doing it. Like I said, you should have more. Like, you want people to believe in you. I don't care what race you are. You want somebody to believe in you, believe in others. Like, it's unfortunate that Austin lost his life, but he should have never put his hands on him. They should have never did what they did as well. So it's like two wrongs. And then it's not like a life for a life, none of that stuff. We're not doing it. Because there's so many people, like, what's his name? Kason. Because it's another case in that same area. Kason Ellison. Y'all go check it out. Or Alley. Y'all go check it out. He been out for 3 years, and he basically did the same thing as Karmelo. And he been out for 3 years, and they gave him 2 years. They gave him 2 years, and he's a troubled teen. There was some other cases. They have like a history of cases. So this ain't no play game. This ain't no game. And then they're playing with you. They're feeding you lies and manipulation. They are running around here like y'all probably are with them too, because I've never seen you in the chat and I haven't seen you in the sector or anything, trying to basically manipulate us. No, we're smart. I know how to research, and we're going to think for ourselves. And by all means, I am entitled to fair rights, equality, or anything else. We're not trying to go. We're God's children. This is God's earth. It doesn't belong to anybody or none of that good stuff. So like if y'all want to say, before we can say why, about racism, then everybody got to have the same rights and everybody got to be treated fairly, period. Other than that, we're gonna have the issue. It ain't gonna be no, we're gonna pretend like this and pretend like that. Ain't gonna be no gaslighting and making us feel like, feel like you're free. Feel no, them tricks don't work. Tricks are for kids. But thank y'all anyways. Peace. Smash the like, and I'm out.